Ancient mother, I hear you calling. Ancient mother, I hear your song. Ancient mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient mother, I taste your tears.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Devine, and I am a member of the Worship and Music Committee. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Welcome to First Parish Plymouth virtual service. This service will be posted to our Facebook page and to YouTube. The first part of our service is recorded. Following the benediction, the recording will end. Then we go into our milestones, which is not recorded. Our service today is entitled, Where Do We Come From? Who Are We? And Where Are We Going? The service is led by Deb Keller Wood, Jen Creane, and Sandi Hammond. Deb, Jen, and Sandi would like to offer a breakout group during today's coffee hour for continued discussion of today's 3 sermon topics. They have found these topics to be so rich and multifaceted that they want to offer you the opportunity to discuss and reflect together. If you prefer to socialize without the discussion, please ask Paul to put you in the visiting breakout room. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, come walk with us this hour. Let us walk together this hour. The call to service this morning is by Laura Calazos Spiller. She's an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at Midwestern State University. She wrote a paper entitled Understanding Inequality and Why It Matters. In this paper, she wrote, tolerating and accepting is a great start. However, they only require nonchalance, whereas understanding requires dedication. Tolerance or acceptance allows us to remain ignorant of all people's emotional, social, and legal struggles, whereas understanding enables us to recognize, support, and appreciate these struggles. Tolerance or acceptance lets us lump those people together in a separate box and treat them as other, whereas understanding helps us to see each individual as a full-fledged, unique, complicated human being, just like me. Tolerance or acceptance cultivates live and let live, whereas understanding helps us realize we all inhabit the same box. I encourage you to consider ways you can grow in this area. They include figure out what your biases might be and set them aside. Ask respectful questions. Listen without judgment. Look at things from the other person's perspective. Keep an open mind. Educate yourself about the issues faced by minority groups. And take responsibility for your actions. Our opening hymn this morning is Ancient Mother, and we will sing it through twice.
Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tea.
Please join me as we light this chalice and say our covenant together. The words are on your screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another. We are about to have our time for all ages. This week it's a video. It's a very powerful video with children. May we watch it, and may we learn to change.
This afternoon, we're going to draw people doing different jobs. And the first job we're going to draw is a firefighter.
Have a think in your head what a firefighter looks like.
What's your firefighter called?
Mine's called Firefighter Gary.
Firefighter Stan. Firefighter Simon.
He's big and strong.
He's got a big helmet on.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Next, we're going to draw a surgeon.
Have you thought of a name for your surgeon?
Jim Bob.
Jim Bob.
He's a brain surgeon.
I think he would wear a stethoscope. He gives you medicine.
That's his ambulance.
OK, next, we're going to draw a fighter pilot.
This is his jet plane.
He rescues people.
He likes to do stunts in the air and stuff.
OK, now, who would like to meet these people for real?
Yeah! They're dressed up.
My name's Tamsin, and I'm a surgeon in the NHS.
My name's Lauren, and I'm a pilot in the Royal Air Force.
My name's Lucy. I'm a firefighter in the London Fire Brigade.
So who wants to know how to do an operation?
Who's putting it on?
I'm trying my
put it on.
stethoscope.
We put this in here. There you go. Now you're a proper fighter pilot.
So into your ears. Can you hear that? Yeah. It's really good. It's much better, yeah, it's much better than the kids' one.
How's Hammond doing? Oh.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak. Her step doth run in my
I researched from Adam to Eve to contemporary history. I found strong women who I had never heard of. I found heartache, and I found new insights. The Biblical Archaeology Society states that according to the Bible, Eve was created from Adam's rib, and having eaten the forbidden fruit was responsible for Adam's expulsion from paradise. The story underlines the belief that women were inferior to men, and they were morally weaker and likely to tempt men into sin. Fast forward to the Middle Ages. There were two main alternatives for women: to marry or to take the veil and become a nun. On to the 19th century. On a summer day in 1848, a young housewife and mother, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, was invited to tea with 4 friends in upstate New York. As their conversation turned to the situation of women, Stanton poured out her discontent with the limitations placed on her. The women agreed that they all felt that way, so other women must also. Within 2 days of their tea, they had picked a date for a convention. They had found a suitable location and placed an announcement in the Seneca County Courier. Less than a week after their tea, they held the convention to discuss social, civil, and religious condition and rights of women at the Wesleyan Chapel in Seneca Falls. They and many other women began to work for equal rights, and specifically the right to vote. That tea in 1848 was considered the beginning of the women's rights movement. Less than 2 weeks after that first convention, a second women's convention was held at the First Unitarian Church of Rochester. The birth of the women's rights movement and 2 conventions took place in the span of 2 weeks. Yet women were not granted the right to vote until 72 years later, in 1920. Let's fast forward again. I was born in 1963 to parents who wore bell-bottom jeans, went to protests. I went to protests I don't even remember. We had a hookah pipe in our living room. I was born in the now generation. We could do anything we wanted, or so I thought. On March 22nd, 1972, when I was 9 years old, the Women's Rights Amendment was passed in the U.S. Senate, first proposed in 1923. This amendment was to provide for the legal equality of the sexes and prohibit discrimination based on sex. It was not ratified by the required majority of states until 2020. Virginia became the 38th state to ratify the ERA, which satisfied the Article 5's requirement for 3/4 of the states. There are still 13 states who have not ratified the Equal Rights Amendment. Up until 1974, married women couldn't get credit cards in their own name. They were in their husband's name. Single women could be denied altogether. Most women could not get a bank loan without a man to co-sign. We could be barred from juries until 1975. We've come a long way, but slowly. As I got older, I became scared to rock the boat. I began to internalize the idea that women who went with the flow were more accepted. I began to learn that men were the class presidents, the leaders during projects. I grew scared to speak up. I was uncomfortable stepping forward, because what if I was wrong? I chose to go to a women's college, hoping I would gain my voice. It was the right decision for me, but my voice was still quiet. Forward to 2000. At the age of 37, I got divorced. I had 4 beautiful children to raise, to set an example for, and I had to dig deep and find strength. I almost lost my house when I needed to refinance. I was asked if my father would co-sign. I said no. I found my strength and my voice. In 2013, when my new husband and I went to buy a truck, the salesperson asked me if I had any more questions and then turned to my husband to begin to talk price and loan information. My husband looked him straight in the eye and said, "My wife takes care of those matters. She's much better at it than me." The salesperson needed a minute to regroup. I found more strength. I still have to work on my voice. I still get hurt if I think that I'm not being heard. My past is still just under the surface. But my past includes my creating my own school with my voice and strength. It includes putting my children through school with my voice and my strength. It includes marching on Boston with my mother, my aunt, my husband, and my stepfather in 2017 in the largest single-day protest in U.S. history. Being a part of that women's march gave me more strength and voice than I ever imagined it would. And great pink hats. Women are not alone. Minorities are not alone. I am not alone. We hold each other up. We support each other, and we feel joy in each other's successes. One day I heard a song that made me cry. As I watched the video again and again and again, it gave me more strength. This musical reflection is called "This Is Me," from a rehearsal for the musical The Greatest Showman. May it help all of us, people of all ages, stages, from her stories, histories, and their stories, find more strength.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, gonna
We've just heard from Deb about the history of women's rights. In fact, the genesis of today's sermon was in response to readings she did months ago about 2 remarkable women, a Wampanoag, Weetamu, who was a warrior on the shores of Cape Cod and fought to protect her people, and a Unitarian Universalist, Eliza Tupper Wilkes, a member of the group known as the Iowa Sisterhood. That day, the 3 of us began talking furiously. How can we have worked so hard only to find that today we're earning 82 cents for every dollar earned by men? And for women of color, it's about 79 cents. And let's not limit our conversation about gender to the binary. For trans and gender nonconforming people, earnings are even less. The National Center for Transgender Equality issued a seminal report in 2015 with 28,000 trans respondents in the US who reported that nearly 1/3 were living in poverty compared to 12% of the general population. Deb, Jen, and I also talked about how the Harvey Weinstein case blew open in October of 2017, and conversations about workplace sexual harassment exploded across the country. So what does all this mean for women today? Well, Statistically, I am more likely to be murdered by a male partner than by anyone else. According to a 2017 CDC report, 55% of all female homicide victims are killed by an intimate partner. The numbers are worse for Black and Indigenous women, and the numbers for Latina women are the highest at 61%. More than 98% of these homicidal partners were men. Years ago, my father shared with me that while most violent crimes are committed by men, it is admittedly only 10% of men who commit those crimes. But where does that leave us as women? The general population of the US is 51% female, and yet we have only 24% of congressional seats. Another study found that the earnings of female transgender employees fell by nearly a third following their gender transition. Approximately 200,000 American children are trafficked every year for sex, and 70% of them are girls. I could go on with more staggering statistics. I know these numbers are hard to hear, but they are part of the fabric of this society. Our history has expressed a binary perception of gender in which white men have held power over the public arena as lawmakers and income earners, while women held power, supposedly, over the private arena of domesticity. And while society has labeled us a minority, as I stated moments ago, women make up 51% of the population. We continue to be identified as a minority and have been fighting this battle for centuries, along with other true minorities. In the 90s, I read several books by noted feminist and psychologist Carol Gilligan. Her interviews with thousands of adolescent girls found something devastating. Up until age 11, girls speak with great confidence, starting sentences with the phrase, "I know." But by the age of 16, this language deteriorates, becoming increasingly apologetic, beginning with phrases like, "I'm not sure," or I don't know, over and over again. Puberty presents girls with a developmental crisis. As they begin to interpret what the world wants of them as women, they shut down. This is reflected in Deb's own story. I recently came across some photos of myself. The first one, from 5th grade, still shocks me. At age 11, I am sitting in violin class, completely relaxed and with astonishing confidence. And then a photo of myself at 15, painfully self-conscious. Am I pretty enough? Are my bangs okay? Do you like this dress? My smile looks like an apology. We are about to hear a song from a musical which tells the story of a waitress, Jenna, who is married to an abusive husband. She copes with her stress by baking delicious, creative pies, which the diner patrons love. In this song, she has just found out she is pregnant after a drunken night with her husband. And as I was preparing this sermon, this song really struck a chord in me. Why? First, our heroine Jenna is in a low-paying job in the service economy with no benefits, and presumably is financially dependent on her husband. 65% of waitstaff in the US are female, with a median salary of $22,000 a year. Secondly, 85% of domestic violence victims are female. And lastly, she channels her creativity into something she has control over, baking. Her story connects personally and deeply to some of the statistics I've shared this morning. We need to remember that these numbers represent real people. May we move forward, listening, including, honoring, respecting, and may we pursue equal rights for all.
It's not simple to say that most days I don't recognize me. These shoes and this apron that plays and its patrons have taken more than I gave them. It's not easy to know I'm not anything like I used to be, although it's true I was never attention's sweet center, but I still remember that girl. She's imperfect, but she tries. She is good, but she lies. She is hard on herself. She is broken and won't ask for help. She is messy, but she's kind. And she is lonely most of the time. She is all of this mixed up and baked in a beautiful pie. She is gone, but she used to be mine. It's not what I asked for. Sometimes life just slips in through a back door and carves out a person and makes you believe it's all true. But now I've got you, and you're not what I asked for. If I'm honest, I know that I would give it all back for a chance to start over and rewrite an ending or two for the girl that I knew who'd be reckless just enough, who can hurt but who learns how to toughen up when she's bruised and gets used by a man who can't love. And then she'll get stuck and be scared of this life that's inside her, growing stronger each day till it finally reminds her to fight just a little, to bring back the fire in her eyes that's been gone but used to be mine. Used to be She is messy, but she's kind. She is lonely most of the time. She is all of this mixed up and baked in a beautiful pie. She is gone, but she used to be mine.
Though she be but little, she is fierce. In Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, Helena says of Hermia, though she be but little, she is fierce. Even Shakespeare, who was prohibited by law from putting women on the stage, recognized their untapped power. Little Hermia the firebrand is just one of many female characters from Shakespeare's repertoire to inspire us. So what then of young girls today? How do we unleash the fearless Hermia in all of us? In looking to the future, let's look to the past for a second. Would it surprise you to know that my dad, Air Force veteran, white Irish Catholic from Dorchester, was the first to teach me about feminism and gender roles? It's true. My dad was an optometrist who kept a small practice in Manomet while also seeing patients at neighborhood health centers in Boston. He had a keen sense of empathy and a devotion to the underdog. My mom taught elementary ed, Spanish, and French, so her evenings into late nights were spent grading papers, preparing lesson plans, sourcing new material, as all teachers do. So for as long as I can remember, it was my dad who did the laundry and the ironing, the grocery shopping, and the cooking. How many times did I see him waving his iron in the air on a Sunday afternoon, cursing at the Red Sox on TV while getting laundry ready for the week? As much as I wanted to be pretty, my first bike was blue, not pink. My second bike was a boy's frame, not a girl's frame, because my dad said that design was sturdier and I didn't plan on riding it in a skirt anyway. He had great disdain for men who didn't participate in the everyday care of their own children. Even worse, for those who said they were babysitting while their wives were out. Back when I attended Catholic CCD, when we were told that boys could be altar boys and girls could pass the collection plate, my dad supported me as I lobbied to be an altar server and almost got kicked out of the program. I know my dad would have agreed with feminist author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. In giving advice on the raising of girls, she writes, "Teach her that the idea of gender roles is absolute nonsense. Do not ever tell her that she should or should not do something because she's a girl. Because you were a girl is never reason for anything, ever." This is what my dad taught me, and it's what I've taught my own daughter. But here's the thing. Even if we, as women, think this way, it's only half the battle. As we look to the future, we need our husbands, our brothers, and our sons to take this to heart. We need them to not only accept that women can and will do anything men can do, but then men can do anything that women would traditionally do too. There are no rules when it comes to quote unquote gender roles. Women can be breadwinners, men can be stay-at-home dads. Gender, after all, is defined by the individual, and so too should be the roles that come with it. As my dad showed me, you can identify as a man and not feel any less masculine because you're doing housework. I could ride my boy's bike and not feel any less feminine. Gender is what we decide it to be. Our future is in some sense a blueprint, rooted in what we've already lived. Those experiences, good or bad, make up who we are. But in the messiness of life, we can lose sight of the positive lessons, of that lens that helps us see our infinite power. In our day-to-day, we forget that the small actions we choose make an impact on the impressionable ones around us, whether it's doing chores or choosing a bike or how we speak up about things that are unfair. So remind your daughters that though they be but little, they are fierce. And remind your sons that gender is not a limitation. Women are capable, women are equal, and gender roles are whatever we want them to be. As our final musical reflection, here's a song you might remember by the Eurythmics with the late, great Aretha Franklin. As we reflect on the lessons taught by our sisters in history, let us move forward in strength and sisterhood together. Sisters are doing it for themselves, for each other, now and for always.
We pledge to take a broad, flexible view of gender.
We pledge to celebrate gender as a spectrum with a beautiful and infinite range of expression.
We acknowledge that women are half the human race and deserving of equal treatment.
We accept our painful past of defining gender in a rigid binary way, of subjugating women to inferior status in our culture and legislation, and pledge to do better.
We celebrate the achievements of cisgender women as well as transgender and gender nonconforming people.
We acknowledge the privilege of white patriarchy and pledge to proactively work every day to level the playing field for all.
We acknowledge that even men who benefit from the patriarchy suffer and are boxed in.
We pledge to make space for men to express emotions, be vulnerable, and break free from male toxicity.
We strive to acknowledge and understand the struggles unique to our sisters who are Black, Indigenous, and also other people of color.
We see ourselves as one loving human family. We understand that we need to take down our guard and listen to each other with great compassion so that we can move forward as a whole community.
You can be amazing, you can turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You can be the outcast or be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. Or you can start speaking up. Nothing's gonna hurt you the way the words do when they settle neath your skin. Kept on the inside and no sunlight, sometimes a shadow wins. But I wonder what would happen if